Something I'm seeing all the time that's really suppressing profits of companies is this invisible or often very visible and painful coordination tax between the teams that a lot of companies have kind of just accepted as we have to pay down a lot of coordination tax between teams.
Yeah, well, I see that there are many even vacancies for coordination roles. I see that many organizations have the need to put someone in charge to coordinate the communication between teams, between silos, between business and management, or between IT and business, or between management and operations. What might be obvious that the teams take care of their own intercommunication problems, they just put someone new on top of that. And that's not always helping the problem.
So there's like just abdicate decision making power away from the team and just take it and hoover it up to the top. And then the second one is they think they need it because I've seen this take place where they have like 12 teams and a super project manager on top of them trying to coordinate everyone.
Well, if you see the culture of the company dealing with, we have silos and we don't really solve them. The thing is that if they hire or they put a person in charge to control and coordinate and manage all these things, it's like that person, he sees the cake, he eats it, and he's being the hero of the day. But that's if he's like not following through, everybody is waiting for everybody to act. So that's
The
the price.
coordinator or like there's some IC or team in the company that's the hero.
Well, I think you sort of bring the trust level down because people are not gonna really speak up because they expect someone else who has a higher pay grade probably to solve things, and then people are not being very outspoken, proactive, even not taking initiative to solve problems between teams because they expect a coordinator.
Deferring to Hippo, like the highest paid person's opinion, this kind of thing. So I mean, companies get themselves into this situation, right? Like it's not like they woke up and they say, I want to make all the decisions. I maybe somebody does want that, but it's not very efficient. They kind of trick themselves into being in this trap of everything rolls uphill and everybody has to work together on everything all the time.
Mm.
So we need to throw in coordinators and translators and all this overhead to great expense.
Well, you don't have to. It could be so much more fluent if they find out something more about the interaction modes between teams, between silos, and then they could visualize it, make it more transparent, more focus on what do they expect, what can we expect in return, or how do we work together. Doesn't have to be always close collaboration.
So what kind of system level things are you putting in to really streamline that? Just because it's a big problem in our industry, right? Like, and I'm not saying, all project management is bad. There's a lot of good skills in there, but I think we're overdoing it because we're not solving deeper issues. And I'm wondering, like, how are you approaching this?
My first go-to thing is make sure that there's much more communication transparent, which means that you have a communication channel. Doesn't have to be high tech like Slack or other platforms, but you have to have a way that people can voice everything that needs to be shared. And on the other hand, there needs to be a very clear culture of don't get distracted by all the noise you hear from everywhere. So communication is key, I suppose. But on the other hand, there's also the need for awareness that it's not expected of everybody to have close collaboration with everyone. So I would introduce very specific interaction modes like collaboration, which means people really work together on the same thing and they need, on the need to know basis, work intensively together. But on the other hand, there could be even an X as a service that people learn to create something which can be self-service from other teams. You don't need to interact or communicate with the teams who are delivering a service to you.
If I go and I talk to an average company and they're in this situation where they have 12 teams working together on some mega project and everybody's being coordinated. I have my piece and it goes to you and you have yours and you carry the baton to the next team and we have to wait for that team. So we're blocked for 3 months. They, you say, are you collaborating? People understand that as are you being friendly with each other and working on the same thing? And I think this is the difference between what a lot of people understand collaboration to be versus what it actually is, versus what you're talking about, which is designed collaboration. So, could you
Yeah.
help me unpick those three? Because I think that's
The teams that I see who are saying that they are collaborating, they are mostly having a shared goal in common. Like they need to integrate something that they work together on, and they need to make sure that they don't need to retrofit after the integration. They need to all on along the way work together. But most other teams have a more inside view of we need to make this, develop this, or make this ready, and another team makes something else. And then in the end, somehow magically they need to integrate it. So we are polite and corporately respectful to each other, but there's not really a collaboration. We just endure each other, but we're mostly internally focused. While
yeah.
if you really know which goal the internal organization is heading for, and there is a team having a very straight connection with the customer or the end users, there can be other teams helping those teams, making sure that they have everything they need without being distracted. And that I would call then X as a service, that they would make a platform, make an application, so the streamline teams can do that thing faster instead of being distracted.
And you're using a lot of language from team topologies on that. And something I really like from that is collaboration is not an eternal partnership. It's we're going to work together, but we're in pursuit of not having to work together all the time on everything. We're making structural changes to the reason we have to work together to get rid of that need so we can flow more independently, make decisions locally, remove the need for coordination in the first place.
And building a culture where there is trust enough that small teams can decide and having less need for coordination. So if they have
Yeah.
the bird's eye view, so they see why everybody's doing what they are doing, then they can focus on their details and they have the decision power to fast solve the problems. They don't need someone else coordinating the problem solving for them.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people get hung up on that X as a service point because they say, well, I need to work with that team because they have data that I need that's relevant to my domain and my topics. So, but I have to work with them. Like it's in their table. I have to send a developer over to modify their table or something. And it's like, that's not the point. We're trying to set up self-service interactions.
I think it's also a bit of the attitude of, do people feel that they are cross-functionally enough to solve the things that they commit to solve? Or do they say like, oh, we don't have that expertise, we are dependent on another team, and that's why we need to collaborate, instead of how can we exchange, maybe enable or facilitate another person to make sure that they are feeling competent enough and deliver what they need to do. So
Yeah.
there's
So
still some confusion there, I suppose.
the depth of flow of value, right? Instead of truncating it artificially and saying, well, we just don't have somebody who knows
Mhm.
SQL in our team. So, well, let's work with somebody, enable those skills in the team, get the depth of flow and really unlock that stuff. So we don't have to coordinate with whoever owns the SQL DBA resource pool, right? We can just get that thing done locally without this coordination tax.
They could ask themselves for help from another team instead of asking someone else who is gonna organize that workforce capability exchange. So if you trust your people to solve their own problems, they probably can do that with limited amount of effort instead of overarching too much confusion.
Yeah. So I guess what you're really saying is you want to bring down the coordination tax. We should look for designing the inter-team interactions correctly. And you're saying, these team topologies interactions are kind of the cornerstone to doing that,
Yeah.
or at least framing your thinking around how do you do this correctly?
And you don't have to complicate the whole team topologies things if you focus on how do teams interact with each other, what kind of simple tools can we use. You can simplify it, like a team API can be a very straightforward template which you negotiate in between teams, like What are we communicating? Is it enough to get us going? Can we evaluate how we do that? And how do we make sure that people keep it up to date? Something like that.
Yeah, I think so many organizations are used to these boil the ocean reorg efforts that they assume everything that does any kind of organizational improvement must boil the ocean in a big hit. And just these little team interaction API templates, like this is such a low touch thing that you could ship value like really by the end of the week to bring clarity and like reduce your coordination tax, but get the flow of value going faster even. And we're seeing organizations just not executing on it because they're waiting for some massive overarching project, and it can be
Yeah.
just light touch.
And also, some teams, they know that they are not settled in stone, that they have to work together all the time. They can find their way to more fluid collaborations, that they are now working with this team or with this expert or individual, and then later on evaluate and say, okay, we move on and we're now focusing on a different goal and we have different interactions with different teams and so on. Easy peasy.
I want to put a lot of the coordination tax is coming from this sort of learned helplessness our industry has from this massive scaled agile framework stuff where everything has to be top down heavy handed coordination of all these teams. And we don't need to do that, right? We can just have local decisions when we drive clarity at local team levels and we design interactions appropriately, right? And we don't have to have boil the ocean initiatives to get there. We don't need to have 12 teams interacting together all the time, every time we need to ship something. So for me, that's the big thing here that improves that is
Mhm.
bringing down the complexity of getting stuff out the door.
Yeah. Straightforward, finding the best way to deliver your value with one team, with 16 teams, but mostly make sure that everybody is empowered to do what they're good at. If people feel that they are being coordinated and they want to take charge of their own responsibility, they can have a look, for example, into some guidance of what team topology is bringing. But most of all, they can also map it out visually and then discuss with each other, like, how can we get from point A to point B without externalizing the decision making. I don't need to bash on the frameworks. You can choose if you want to use them or not, but I'll I suppose that the teams who feel that they want to get away from the silo thinking, they need to do something, and mostly they need to do it proactively themselves instead of hiring a new person coordinating everything.
Yeah, you can't hire your way out of coordination overhead, right? It's gonna just grow and grow and grow until you address the system.
Yeah, and then people fall over each other's feet because they don't know why are you here? Can we not do it ourselves? Are we not mature enough? Things like that.
Well, now we know what to do. So key takeaway, like let's just get a team API drafted out and start modeling our team interactions locally so
Mhm.
that we don't have to wait for some major initiative and we don't have to keep expanding the costs of overhead and also paying just like you will never be as fast as doing it independently, small team end to end value, right? You just cannot beat that speed. So, yeah.